Look Bout Yourself with Marcia and Musufing.
Greetings, people. What a guan. Have you been taking care of yourself? You give yourself time and permission to stop.
Greetings, everyone.
My name is Musufing.
And I'm Marcia.
And this is
Look
Bout
Bout
Yourself. And Marcia, what are we?
This is gonna be. I hope it's not uncomfortable for people, but I think it's important for us to talk about death.
Death. And I think when you say it in the context of the kind of European, it's like, oh, the Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
When it comes to, I have a beautiful brother who passed away a few weeks ago, and he called me a couple of weeks before we spoke. We had a long conversation, and he said, Musufing, because he'd been ill, and he knew that, and he said to me, I want you to come and dance at the funeral.
Oh, bless him.
And I want you to wear this, and I want you to do this and that, and it was lovely to have that conversation.
Yeah.
I was privileged to be the granddaughter of a beautiful lady called Ivy, my grandmother, my mum's mum. And she passed away at home in Jamaica last year. Luckily, my mum and my granny went home in the 90s.
Yeah.
So they'd been living that life. And we knew it was coming. And she was at home.
Yeah.
Family are sing to her. So as she's passing, singing, yes, sadness, but she was peaceful.
Indeed. Yeah. That's what you want, isn't it? I mean, I'm reminded of when my dad passed, and he was at home. And actually, was your sister
in
actually?
England?
Yeah, your sister looked after him.
No,
Yeah,
look at that.
Yeah, your sister looked after him.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's how I met her. Yeah.
That is such a blessing and a beautiful thing. Look at that.
Yeah. That was back in 1986.
Really?
Yeah. And so, but he, my dad was ill, and I remember when we kind of got the diagnosis that it was terminal. He was actually in hospital, and Mum says, "Well, send him home. No point in being here. Let's just get him home." And she did. He survived 2 years.
Did he?
Yeah, but he died at home, and again, it was really peaceful for him. And I remember, because I was there, and remember speaking to him, and at that point, he was kind of drifting in and out, but he was still able to have a conversation. I remember saying, "You all right, Dad?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm good." We were just talking, and then he just took this breath, and it was just let out this, it just exhaled, and then that was it.
Wow.
In bed.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I guess that's one of the things we wanted to talk about today, is that there's a beauty in death that we never talk about.
Yeah. We focus so much on, and naturally so, we love the people that have transitioned, but we focus so much on the loss, and it is a loss. But to be able to transition in such a peaceful way. Remember, I'm using the word transition.
It's not loss for the person.
Yeah, that's it.
Because my granny, that's the closest person to me, really. That I lost my brother, a brother that grew up in Jamaica. We were close. I'm not saying that didn't hurt.
Yeah.
But the way that I was connected with my granny was very different.
Yeah.
A lot of what I do in my life, she.
Yeah.
Even the expression and everything, she just comes out. So, and she's like a major cornerstone of the family.
Yeah.
But for some family members, it was I'm not saying it wasn't traumatic for me, but I was able to say to myself, she was at home. She was in her own bed. Nobody, no nurse was knocking her in her head and say, oh, woman, she was at peace. And there's a beauty in that. I'm not saying that we don't mourn her and grieve.
Exactly.
But when I think of her, I just feel so light and so happy.
And that's interesting, because as I was reflecting on that experience, because that was my first death I've ever experienced.
And you were young.
I was in my 20s. He died in 86, and that was the first time we'd experienced a death close like that in the whole family. And it was our dad, and it was so much shock for us as well. I mean, we just didn't have a clue, didn't know what to do, nothing, But even in that, for me, because not all my siblings were present. They were present in the house, but at that moment, they might have been in different rooms, or my brother. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me sharing, but my mum had sent him to the chemist to get, because he was in a lot of pain. My dad was in pain, so my brother had gone to get his prescription. So by the time he'd got back,
Dad had transitioned.
Just transitioned. So, and that was hard for him, really hard, and so there were those things, those kind of nuances. But the fact that he was at home with his family, and I remember the week before, I think he thought he was going the week before, and I remember I was working, and my eldest, he was at nursery, and every evening after I finished work, I'd go pick him up from nursery and go up to my mum and dad's. This particular Thursday, which is the exact week to his passing, I decided I wasn't going to go. I was tired. And I remember getting home, feeding my son, putting him to bed, and I was just chilling because I was really tired. And then must have been about 7 o'clock, I just hear this banging on my door. And I open the door, it's my sister. She's going, quick, Dad's asking for you. And she had a taxi outside the door. I literally flew up them stairs, picked me out of the bed, fling him in the taxi, and went up to my mum's. And it was like every red light. And I'm thinking, please let me get there before anything happens. So we get there, and we got there, my dad was there. And I think he himself thought that it might be the time, because he was asking, "Where Marcia there?" You know what I mean? So all the kids were there. And do you know, what was really interesting was that night, we knew so much. We didn't really know that much about his background necessarily. My dad just talked.
Oh my goodness.
And we were just like sitting there. We spent the whole evening in the bedroom. We all slept in the same bedroom, and mum and dad's in the bed, and we all camper on.
Wonderful. So that was like a beautiful storytelling and a sharing before he...
because he wasn't a big talker.
Really?
Yeah, my dad was very quiet. He wasn't. So that was a wonderful, and that's something I won't forget. He just talked, and we were like, wow, Dad. And all his siblings and everything, because we knew about the aunties that were here, aunties that were here, but we didn't necessarily know the other aunties. And it was because of that that we, after he'd passed, we were introduced to
the connection. So that's what your dad did before he passed. He reconnected the family. I mean, we both talked about significant loss, and I'm not saying you losing your dad and me losing my granny. They were older, and it's expected. And I know some we lose people sometimes. That feels. I still haven't. My brother Burani, he was the life and the soul. He's gone. It's still it feels a bit, I lost a sister as well in 2005. And sometimes there's a sense of something's not finished when it's a younger energy. Not to say you're whole, you're dead. But when it's a younger energy, sometimes, but it's an individual thing, but I think it's something we should talk about more.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, even with my dad passing, I'm older now than he was when he died.
Wow.
He was 40, was he 46?
What?
46.
My dad was 54. So I'm older than my dad was too. So that's another thing that we share.
Wow. It's young, isn't it? Young, that we lost our dads at early ages, you know, and it just, again, it just feels really untimely.
Yes,
you
it
know.
does. I mean, I didn't grow up with my dad. There was a disconnect. I attended his funeral, and it wasn't until years later that I thought, oh my gosh, I had this person. And because I didn't grow up with him, I had this idea when I was young that what you don't have, you don't miss, it don't matter. You know, I never grew up with you. So that was my attitude.
Yeah.
But one day it hit me that I had a dad and now he's gone and I'm never going to be able to. I was at a traffic light driving,
really?
And the rain a fall and the tears a fall and the nose not a fall. And I was like, oh my God, my dad. So it's important that we have these, and I share this with my children, and I share, you know, talking about death and how it makes us feel. And sorry, what you were going to say?
No, I was going to say that what you've experienced there was trauma.
Yes.
Trauma. Trauma, and it came up, and it's funny how it just comes up in those really unexpected ways. You know, but as you were talking about you know, your children and talking about those things with your children, when my dad passed, my eldest Dean he was just starting school. My dad died in August and he was starting school in this September.
Wow.
And he was tired. My dad was the strictest person. We couldn't even say boo, look at him too hard.
But when it came to your son, soft like a marshmallow.
He could do no wrong. He really could do no wrong. And I remember when my dad passed, and it was, you know, once it sunk in, we're all out wailing and all of that. You know, when one of my sisters ran out of the house, I had to go chasing her, and you know, it was kind of like chaotic. And one of my aunties, my auntie Jenny, was there. She just managed everything. She just kept us all together.
Wow.
And I remember Dean, forget about Dean. And he was sat on the stairs, everybody's like, oh. And I suddenly thought, and he's sitting there looking really forlorn. And I was, oh my gosh, Dean, you know. And, you know, he was his granddad, you know, and I'm having to explain to him. And the day of the funeral, he didn't go. I didn't take him. So he was at nursery with some cousins that had come up as well. So I didn't want him at the funeral because I'm thinking it's going to traumatize him. But it was a mistake because he kept asking me, where's my granddad? So
he needed to have that understanding, however he processed it, that this is goodbye in the physical sense, and he needed that as well. Yeah.
And then
so that's very important. When it comes to death, how do we maneuver with our children?
Exactly. I think it's important to be able to let them know what's going on. It doesn't matter about the age, because he was 4, just turning 5. He wasn't going to be 5 until the November.
Yeah.
You know, but he asked those questions, and I ended up having to take him to the cemetery.
Maybe with his little flower or whatever to do his own.
And because up until that point, it did my mum's head in, because there was a record that my mum had played, you know, the day of the funeral. He found it and he was playing it constantly till it got to the point where we were thinking, man, we're gonna have to hide this tune, you know, because he put it on the actual turntable and put it on, and then to the point where it was just on a loop. And we had to hide it.
Wow. So
I
think one of the major things about death is not to separate it from life.
Exactly, and that's what I've done.
And to talk about there is no one size. No. But it's been so useful for me to be able to have this conversation with you. What we've just shared is so beautiful and so precious about your dad and about, you know, my dad, my granny. And it's important because you honor them. You're still sending them. Well, everyone has their own belief system, but I believe that it's just a transition of energy.
It's a transition.
And the spirit doesn't disappear.
No.
Of that person, because they are us. They are us. So in that beautiful way, they don't go anywhere. So it's not an easy topic. I do, and I think other cultures have other beautiful ways.
Yeah.
I again think that we've become very. I'm not saying everything about being in Britain is terrible, but I do think there's a separation.
There's a separation and a coldness.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, sometimes you just go to the cemetery, don't you?
Yeah.
They don't even wait to fling around the dirt sometimes, you know.
And it's like over there. Oh my gosh, we went to Jamaica for my grand's funeral. The night before we danced till about 2 o'clock in the morning. It was COVID, you know. And the police commissioner passed all the police. They didn't shut us down because they knew my granny and they knew.
Right.
So we were dancing. I have the videos.
Wow.
The week of the burial, people came from the neighborhood to dig my granny's grave because we did not bury her in a cemetery. She buried her yard where she grew up.
Yeah.
Where our neighbor train cut. No, that's not where she was born. But that area, she was there from she was a teenager. And the life, the stories. I was meeting young people who said, Ivy, I'm my best friend, you know. My granny was 96.
Oh,
she had mates who were in their 20s.
Yeah.
And it brought her she was everywhere. She was just everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, how
it was beautiful. And I mean, where her graveside is, there's dog paws across where the concrete.
Yeah.
And in the morning, people go there, they sit there, they have their tea, they have and they talk to Ivy.
Oh, wow.
And it's beautiful. So maybe one of the things those of us who are ready is to embrace, is to make plans about our death. I want, you know, my friend Lloyd, who died a few weeks ago, he said, don't bother wearing no black. I want you to wear colors. He was from Guyana. He was a Calypsonian. So he wanted, so let the celebration of the life be indicative
absolutely
of the life that has transitioned.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the message. We celebrate their life.
Celebrate their life.
Celebrate their life.
Yeah. And also I'm not saying we are dead tomorrow, but we don't know. So to have things in place for ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, do you want to die at home? Do you want to die in a hospital? You know, let's talk about it.
Yeah. Let's not be afraid to talk about these things, because it's a part of life. That's never going to change, is it? It's never going to change. No. Death is amongst us.
Yes. And it's a part. Death is a part of life.
Indeed.
You know, so let's embrace as much as we can. As difficult as it is, let's just do it. And I think children are probably better at.
Yeah, they will ask the questions. And you know, they will ask. And if we don't tell them, they're going to come and ask you. And it helps because it gives them closure as well. And, you know, just thinking about what happened with my son at that young age. Wow. He didn't understand. He says, well, he actually said to me, well, if he's dead, where's his grave then? Where is he? You know, I had to. You were trying to save him. I was trying to save him, but he needed. He taught you something. He did as a child. Absolutely. Yes. So people, we know it a come, but let us not be all. Yeah, we are going to ball. Yeah, we are going to fling ourselves on the floor or whatever we are going to do. There's no rhyme or reason in how you're going to react, you know. But let us embrace death. Absolutely. Yeah. We hope you I'm going to say enjoyed. But we hope that's been insightful for you. We hope it has. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, all this is about is look about yourself. Thanks for spending some time with us, and see you next time. See you next time.
Look About Yourself with Marcia and Musufing.